Welcome to the video, guys. Sadiq Khan's back again, crying his little eyes out, demanding more money, and of course lying through his back teeth, which at this point is not a surprise to anyone. He is whining like a little girl because Boris Johnson hasn't spoken to him for over 2 months, like Sadiq Khan has some right to a direct line to the Prime Minister when he could be busy doing a whole lot of nothing, which it seems the government are doing when it comes to the things that really matter to this country, with the exception of Brexit, obviously. It would appear they are actually doing a decent job on that, but a variety of other things they are completely cocking up, which is no surprise, they are a political party after all. But as per usual, Sadiq Khan shows he is above and beyond any other politician in this country, not only with his whining, but his constant bullshit that we'll take a look at in a moment. But first, we're going to take a look at this independent article going on about Sadiq Khan's moaning and how Boris Johnson is such a horrible person because he won't speak to this snivelling shitweasel. But before we get into that, remember the daily live stream has moved over to Twitch, so if you want to join me over there, the link will be down in the video description as always, along with the channel's other social media links. But back to the independent article and Sadiq Khan, the snivelling shitweasel. Sadiq Khan has accused the Prime Minister of not having spoke to him for months during the coronavirus pandemic. The Mayor of London said he has been lobbying Boris Johnson on the use of face masks, but that the last time he had spoke to him was around 2.5 months prior. The last time I spoke to him was the last time there was a Cobra meeting, which was in early May, Mr. Khan told the Press Association news agency. I find it astonishing the Prime Minister of a country during a pandemic isn't holding Cobra. That's because it is on its way out and there is absolutely no point for it, much like there is no point in him talking to you because you literally just politicise absolutely everything as a way to attack the government, even when they don't deserve it, which to be honest they do deserve to be attacked over a variety of things, but most of the things Sadiq Khan comes out with are certainly not them. I find it equally astonishing that the Prime Minister isn't engaging with the Mayor of the capital city. No, he doesn't need to engage with the Mayor of the capital city. You should be able to do your job on your own, or in your case, fuck it up all on your own. The Mayor of London should not need Boris Johnson or any other Prime Minister for that matter to hold their hand and deal with the capital. That is your job at the end of the day, which, as I've said many times and is common knowledge at this point, you are royally fucking up. Just take a look at all the kids that are getting stabbed on the streets of London at the end of the day to see how piss poor this mayor really is. Sadiq Khan moaned on, but look, it's for him to explain why he's not doing so. No, he doesn't need to explain shit to you at the end of the day. I'm keen to make sure that we make London as safe as we can during this pandemic, and our teams work with the government even though it's not the Prime Minister. So, in other words, his teams do work with the government, but he doesn't get a direct line to Boris Johnson, so he's out here crying. It's not like the government is leaving London and the powers that be there to their own devices. They are actually helping them, but Boris Johnson is not doing it personally because maybe he's got a country to run. Mr. Khan's Tory counterpart in the upcoming Mayor of London election suggested he had been deliberately locked out of the briefings because the government did not like him passing on details of their discussions to the public or of course to the media, which we all know Sadiq Khan does anytime he is told anything, especially if he can use it as a political weapon to beat the Tories or anyone who might happen to be against him. The Mayor of London was due to be up for re-election in May, but the contest was postponed until next year on account of the pandemic. Polls suggest Mr. Khan will roundly beat his Conservative opponent Sean Bailey, who claims the incumbent has mismanaged Transport for London, a popular belief amongst Conservative activists. Is the Independent actually taking the piss there? It's not a popular belief. The guy had to come and beg for 1.6 billion and he's coming begging for a bit more, as you will see in a moment. I would say him mismanaging TfL is at this point beyond any doubt. I mean, the snivelling shitweasel tried to use that the fares are going to go up as a way to beat the government over the head, despite the fact that he was going to have to do that anyway, and it had nothing to do with the coronavirus or indeed Boris Johnson's government, which is actually pointed out in this Mail Online article that headlines, Mayor Sadiq Khan is accused of mismanaging TfL finances as he demands more government money to prop up public transport in London, just months after a 1.6 billion coronavirus bailout that I covered at the time. London Mayor Sadiq Khan has been accused of mishandling London's transport finances after demanding more taxpayer cash to fund the public transport in the capital just weeks after receiving a 1.6 billion coronavirus bailout, as I just said. He told MPs today London was the only major Western capital which did not receive regular funding for transport and asked for cash to provide long-term sustainability. So London's never had it before, but now he demands it and says that every other Western capital gets the same. Why don't you piss off, you snivelling shitweasel, or spend some of your PR budget on that perhaps? Or shit, you could even realistically get rid of some of of the high-paid executives that are in TfL that you have obviously implanted there. There's something like 500 of them now, when there was only 400 of them before he got in office. Transport around the country has been badly hit by the coronavirus lockdown, with commuters urged until recently to avoid buses and tubes wherever possible. Yes, but the real reason why TfL's finances went to shit was because Sadiq Khan decided to give everyone during the pandemic free train and bus fares, so they wasn't making any money. Ad revenue was down, add that to free bus fares, TfL's finances are gonna go to shit, and that's all Sadiq Khan's fault at the end of the day. Government sources said the mayor had demanded $2 billion but was turned down several times. The sides have settled for a $1.1 billion package plus $505 million in loans, which will need to be paid back. That, no doubt, he will get out of paying for as long as possible. Appearing in front of the Transport Committee today, Mr. Khan said the deal we want is a deal that gives us a long-term sustainable plan going forward. In other words, he wants everything funded by the government so he doesn't have to worry about income from tickets, ad revenue and the like. But Tory MP Greg Smith said the actual TfL debt has gone up from $9 billion to $11 billion. Costs have gone up by 82%. 518 employees are on over $100,000 a year. When that's the case, how can it be that TfL gets big bailouts and other parts of the country don't? Which is a fair point, but neither should really get these big bailouts if you ask me. Since 2018, TfL has been operating without any additional government grants. The decision to scrap TfL's operating grant was made in 2015 when Boris Johnson was London Mayor. So, got absolutely nothing to do with the current government we are seeing now. And finally, as I said, Sadiq Khan has been called out for misleading MPs over TfL's pay, as it says here in this City AM article. Sean Bailey has challenged London Mayor Sadiq Khan's claims that the number of Transport for London employees earning over $100,000 a year has dropped during his tenure. Speaking to MPs yesterday at a hearing of the Transport Select Committee, Khan was asked by Robert Largan to justify why 557 employees were on such remuneration packages. The Mayor promised to write back to the committee with the exact figures, but said that it had gone down hugely since he had become Mayor. He added, unlike during the previous administration, when numbers of those earning over $100,000 were going up and bonuses were going up, in the last 4 years they have been going down. When asked to confirm whether the number had fallen by Largan, he said yes, and bonuses as well, which it actually turns out is a complete and utter load of bollocks, as we will see in a moment, and probably doesn't surprise any of you. It's coming from Sadiq Khan at the end of the day. However, in a letter to the committee chair, Conservative mayoral candidate Bailey accused Khan of either ignorance of his own job or a deliberate attempt to mislead Parliament, which I expect the second is probably the more likely, considering it is Sadiq Khan and the Labour Party at this point. Bailey pointed to TfL's own accounts, which show that while 550,000 people earned over £100,000 this year, in the last year of Johnson's mayoralty, 458 people were on such salaries, including Crossrail workers. So, surprise, surprise, TfL's own accounts proved this snivelling shitweasel to be a complete and utter liar, which at this point is common practice for the Labour Party and politicians in general, but more so for them over the past few years, I would say. I've said it many times before, the Tories and the Labour Party are two cheeks of the same arsehole. Unfortunately, Labour are just more covered in shit than the Tories at the moment. The figure has in fact increased every year since Khan took office, bar last year in 2018 to 2019. In 2017 to 2016, there were 576 employees on such salaries, a figure that increased to 617 the next year before falling to 515 last year. So Sadiq Khan was partly right in that it did fall, but overall it has been going up, as was proved by the figures up here. And you can tell here that Sadiq Khan has been caught out because he's gone on about something completely different, trying to make himself look better because he knows he has been talking an utter load of bullshit about this. A spokesman for the Mayor of London said Sadiq Khan has frozen the salaries of top TfL executives for the duration of his mayoral term, and has reduced the number of senior managers earning salaries over 100k. Yeah, he reduced them once while raising them for the other 3 or 4 years that he was in office, making him a complete and utter liar at the end of the day. And this one here, to be honest with you, Sadiq Khan has committed himself to taking a 10% pay cut. That is not what the story is about at the end of the day. The story is about how you lied to the Transport Select Committee in the Houses of Parliament, you snivelling shitweasel, adding to the fact that you've also mismanaged TfL's finances to the point where you've put them in unimaginable debt, and are sitting there crying that Boris Johnson won't speak to you whenever you want, like a complete and utter tosspot. So, in what is a surprise to none of us, Sadiq Khan is back to his old tricks, complaining and bitching about everything that doesn't really matter. Why don't you spend your time on sorting out the problems of London that we are dealing with, which have nothing to do with the central government, you incompetent fuckpig?
There is a pattern consistent throughout history. of oppressed people turning on the oppressors, slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires. And that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going, and we are glad to be going. We're off.